poll out. Stephen, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, pal.
What's the poll say and who did it?
Well, one of the most, this poll focuses on reactions to the summit meeting in Helsinki. One of the questions we asked is, do you approve of the way the president handled that now famous press conference with Vladimir Putin? 56% negative, only 29% positive, and 41% strongly negative. So the president's getting pretty poor reviews through the general population. But as you and I have discussed many times, the core base of support is still there. We asked, is American leadership weaker or stronger in the world under Trump? 47% said weaker, 30% said stronger, but among Republicans, 74% said America is stronger under Trump. So among moderates, independents, a lot of disillusionment, a lot of uneasiness among his core base of support, still holding pretty strong, McGraw.
Yeah, this is the ABC News Washington Post poll. Let's talk about independents for a second, because it seems like the Democrats and the Republicans, if you self-identify one way or the other, we can sort of see where they go. But break down some of the independent numbers for us.
Okay, well, for instance, we asked, do you approve or disapprove of how Trump handled the meeting with Putin? Overall, the disapproval was 50%, but among independents, the number jumps to 59% disapproval, and among moderates, it jumps to 64% disapproval. The other variable that we saw was education. Normally, we get a lot of variables according to gender and age. Not true in this poll, but the key variable here that people were more likely to be negative about the president's performance the more education they had. You know, foreign policy is an odd issue in American politics. It seldom affects people directly. It doesn't impact their lives. It's not like inflation or unemployment. It's an abstraction, and it tends to be an issue that matters more to people who have traveled more, studied more about the world, and we're seeing that very much show up in this poll.
Yeah, also somebody who isn't worried about putting the next week's food on the table might pay more attention to national politics, but when you're trying to keep your job and pay your bills, that's the furthest thing from your mind.
Yeah, and the other thing that is important that happened over the weekend was the president's tweet in which he called the Russian thing a hoax. Now, at the end of last week, the president's own national security team said over and over, as clearly and as forcefully as they possibly could, that there was no doubt whatsoever that not only did Russia tamper with the last election and subvert the election, but is going to try to do it again in the next election. And very reluctantly, the president, after Helsinki, said, okay, well, I would accept that judgment. But then when he really was saying what he really thinks, he went back to this trope that it's all a hoax. And, you know, his own national security team said they want to give him unvarnished, objective information. That's what Dan Coates, the director of national intelligence, said. But the president doesn't want unvarnished, objective intelligence. He wants information that supports his own prejudices and his own views. And this is an enormous disconnect. It's one thing to say, well, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are critical. Well, that's expected and that's obvious and that's partisan. But when your own team tells you one thing and you refuse to accept it on an issue so important, it raises this whole question: how can you make reasonable decisions as the national leader if you won't accept the information from your own trusted appointees in the national intelligence area?
Stephen Roberts, ABC News political analyst. Have a good week. Thanks for checking in.